Hi everybody, it's Marco Bernasocchi. Today I'm going to talk to you about QField, the future of QGIS on mobile device. Who am I? I'm the co-founder and CEO of opengis.ch, and I'm the QGIS chairperson. Also, I like to call myself the father of QField. I work in Switzerland. I live in Switzerland for the company I founded 9 years ago called opengis.ch. We are open source geo ninjas, and we do live and love open source. So all we do basically ends up in open repositories. Now, let's move to the interesting part, the most important part of today, which is why QField? Well, because data is outside of the office. When you're doing things that are related to data, you do want to be able to do things directly where the data is, and most of the time that data is not in the office you're working at. So that is why 7 years ago I decided to take QGIS and port it to a mobile version, touch friendly. Back then it was not really touch friendly, it was a one-to-one port of QGIS to Android, but nowadays it turned into something much better. So what is it? What can we do with QField? How does it look like? Well, as I mentioned, it is the mobile data collection app for QGIS, and it is based on some basic principles. The first one is that we do want the UI to be very minimalistic. Every time we go into adding a button or something like that, we do have big discussion if that button really does have the need to be there. Because when you're on the field, you don't want to be fooling around with buttons. You just want to be efficient, and you want to be able to find immediately what you need to do. So all we do in QField really always needs to go through this big discussion if buttons are allowed to come in or not. That's the first very important thing of QField. Second very important thing, which is at the very core of QField itself, is that we want to be allowing people to do beautiful cartography. And that is, well, pretty easy to reach because we are using the full QGIS rendering engine in the background. So if you're good at designing maps, they will look good on QGIS and on QField as well. Obviously, if you are not super gifted in doing maps, then they will not look better just because you're using QGIS or QField. Then I said we want a very minimalistic UI, but we do want to offer powerful tools, and those tools appear only when they are needed. In the background picture here, you see I'm editing a polygon, and you see that the interface has grown from what we saw before. There are now tools that allow me on the top left to enable topological geometry editing, and then on the right we have the GPS toolbox, and then on the bottom right part we do have all the tools that are needed for changing node and moving to the next node and then accepting or adding nodes, etc., etc. So it is not because we have a minimalistic user interface that there are lacking tools. So the tools are there and they're going to come whenever they are needed. And that's also part of the paradigm of having only the buttons that are really needed at the moment that you need them. The third thing that is really important to us is that we want to allow very efficient interaction with the tool. So when you're out in the field and you do need to do multiple things, you don't want to waste time just clicking around because the the application you're using is not helping you. And that is why we did things like here you see in the background, multiple editing of attributes, where you can go and select multiple features, and then from there on you can go click at the top right here, and then you can go and edit, and you will edit the attribute that you're editing will be editable on will be edited on all the feature that you choose. So for example, if you go and say, well, all these apiaries belong to Marco, and now I selected this one that belongs to Samantha Cristoforetti and to Galileo Galilei, I go and change the name. After they will be Marco's apiary, but Albert Einstein will still own his own apiary that hasn't been selected. So those kind of tools that make interacting with the app much easier and much more efficient. It's things that we try to do here and there so that you can work much faster and more efficient on the field. Another thing that we did like this is, for example, when you're digitizing, you can set a checkbox, and the checkbox will remember the value that you set also in the next items that you will digitize. So for example, if you're digitizing apiaries that belong to Marco, you can say the first time you write Marco and then set the checkbox, and from that moment on, it will automatically fill Marco in the field. You can obviously change it, but it will save you a lot of time. Then the next crucial point is having integration that are beneficial to your workflow. So, for example, camera, or adding PDFs from the device, from the gallery, etc., etc. So, very important to us that, again, what we put in here it makes your life much easier when you're on the field. The next really good news is that, well, professional hardware makers are now starting delivering really cool Android devices as well. And this is a device that we are actually currently testing, and it works really well. So you have a device that it's not your standard tablet. It has a better reception. You can use an external GNSS antenna. So actually the setup that you see in the picture is something that really is working, and we are working together with companies like Trimble and like MLIT for sensors to really get the best fit between QField and their hardware. QField is cloud ready, or it's basically there. It hasn't been published yet, but you will see now and there images on how the QField cloud connection looks like. It is a tool that allows us, or will allow the users, to basically seamlessly integrate your data back from the field to your database and your data back in the office. So what do I do? What do I do with QField? How does my working go? Well, first of all, I prepare my project back in the office on my QGIS desktop, and then set up all my login to QField Cloud. I decide which kind of project, which layers do I want to be managed by QField Cloud, which layers do I want to be live layers, which layers do I want to be ignored on the web, and so on and so on. So first I configure my project, and this is something that usually a team leader would do if you have a group of users, if you have field workers, and if you have people that are not in the office. So the GIS expert in the office would set up, and then it will send the project through QField Cloud or through whatever mean they want to the field workers, and the field workers will just deal with QField. They go and efficiently do whatever they need outside. They digitize their points, their lines, their polygons, and so on. And very soon, they'll just seamlessly synchronize the data back. So they'll push the changes back to the QField Cloud, and the data will get back to the office. Obviously, QField Cloud is non-mandatory. We will see later that there are workflows that work without QField Cloud. They work just by synchronizing data via cable or via SyncThing or Dropbox or whatever you want. It's just one more tool to allow you working. So what do we have in QField? And here I'll just show you quickly a kind of a selection of things that QField can do so that you get a rough idea, but I skipped all like the basic thing that you imagine there should be there. I didn't look at them. So in the GPS part, we do have GPS tracking. So you can track wherever you're going on a field. Obviously, I skipped the compass. We have Z values. You can correct for antenna height. We saw before, if you have an antenna that has a pole that it's 1 meter and 80 centimeters, you can say to QField, hey, the antenna is 180, and it will automatically always remove 180 from your points that are digitizing. Your Z values will be actually ground values, ground truth values, and not you will not need to change that later on. Editing, feature editing, there is obviously you can digitize points, line, polygons, but you can do it in a topological way. You can use snapping, you can split polygons. Here in the background we see a polygon being split. You can fill rings, so there is very advanced feature that are available to you in QField. If you need to. If you don't need to, there is no need to go there. They are not going to clutter your interface because we stick to the concept of keeping the interface simple. We support the stylus. Here, obviously, you cannot see the stylus. That's why I show it on a simulation on using the mouse, but basically it's the same thing. You can have a stylus and you can move points around, or you can move the map around. Then we have a search. It does search in the searchable layer. So when you're configuring the project, you configure which layers are searchable. It does search in the display extraction, and you can click on the button here on the right and it will zoom to the results. We have a huge amount of features in the forms. This slide is not really clear, but it supports drag and drop from the QGIS designer, conditional visibility, default values. You can take pictures and so on. We can support, we do have constraints, support relations. So it's really all you can imagine from QGIS is basically almost also there in QField, and it will just be optimized for the touch interface. I already mentioned before that we do have multi-edit, and that's something very new, which is out now in the beta release that will probably go into the production stream in a couple of weeks, a week or two. It's 1.6.1. Yeah. And then another interesting feature is that you can print to PDFs. So you can create layouts in the QGIS project. And whenever you decide that that's it, you print it and you get a PDF, open up the PDF and you have the part that you were at with the, well, I didn't put a lot of thought in the layout itself, but basically you get PDFs that are then ready to be shared to third parties. So I've been speaking before briefly about QField Cloud. There are obviously workflows that are not tied to QField Cloud. So QField Cloud is one of the possible workflow. The most basic workflow is basically you are kind of the explorer. You are the owner of your data, and you take your data, just copy the whole set QGIS project data over to the mobile, go out and have a look around by using your data as well. Then what we call the Lone Ranger is basically this very similar thing to what the Explorer was doing, but what the Lone Ranger does is it does digitized data on the mobile as well. And in the evening or after a week or so, he comes back home and synchronizes via cable the data back to the desktop and is working on his data. So that's a kind of a one single person type of workflow. Online live editing. So in this case, to do this scenario, you need connectivity on the tablet. Basically, what happens is that the project on the desktop and on the mobile is the same, and they have direct connection to a PostGIS database. And whenever you're digitizing something on the field, it gets automatically pushed to the database. So you always have the live kind of data set. Then offline editing, you have a Postgres server in QGIS with QField Sync. You create a dump of the server or maybe a dump of a certain area, and then you move that data to your mobile device. You work on it from the mobile device, and when you want, you synchronize it back using QField Sync again. This is a complete offline editing process. You can do it wherever you want. You don't need any connectivity at all. It's really very handy because you can be sure that it will just work anywhere. It bases on geo packages, so whatever you're getting back from QField is just an updated geo package and a QGIS project. So really, really handy. And then QField will synchronize back to the QField Sync will synchronize back your data to the database. And then I mentioned QField Cloud, which is in internal beta currently. We are heavily testing it, and what it does is basically something very similar to the offline editing process, where instead of having QField Sync, you do have QField Cloud, and your data. So you decide when to push data to QField Cloud, and then QField Cloud takes care of all the tablets of your team members. So you can have different members in the team, and it will just get back all the work that has been done on the field by the workers and merge them together, and then you can from the desktop get all the data back if you want, or you can configure QField Cloud to directly feed back the data to your own database. Currently, we are at version 1.6.1. It is all on QGIS.org. You can find all the source code there. We are very happy in for any help, bug fixing or bug reports, or financial help, obviously, or if you need your custom application, we can obviously customize QField and create a version for you. So there is plenty of things that can be done there. Don't hesitate, join the effort. It's all open source. It's a great tool. It works amazingly. It's been used and downloaded by almost 200,000. It has been downloaded almost 200,000 times. So you're in good company, and we're really looking forward to getting help from you, be it in bug fixing, or tell us what amazing things you're doing with it. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Give us feedback. We live for that, and we really like hearing back from you and from what you're doing. If you have any questions, please go ahead through Kurt, which I think soon will give them to me. And if not, you can go to qfield.org and get more information about QField, the mobile app. And if not, to qfield.cloud, and you can get more information about what is going to come on qfield.cloud. In general, to follow us on Twitter, we have @opengis.ch or @QFieldCore and @QField Cloud. So Yeah, thanks a lot for listening. Hope you got an idea of what you can do with QField, and let's see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Marco. That was great. Nice to have an update. One question that was asked a few times was, what are the plans for making this available on Apple devices through the Apple Store?
Okay, we have already started building it for Apple as well. The Apple Store is kind of a bit of a thingy. We don't know yet exactly licensing wise, but we have started building the iOS version of it. So distribution will be eventually, probably still this year, there will be an iOS version. How it is distributed is still a bit unclear, but probably it's probably this year still.
And can you explain the timing for when QField Cloud will be available and what the accounts, how the accounts will work with that?
Yeah, so the timing, what we are looking at is to do a couple more months of like the whole August and September of beta testing internally and with selected people that clients that we do know that have been giving us a lot of feedback in the past about QField. So kind of like a privileged, they've been helping us a lot with feedbacks and with bug reports and with ideas. So we are going to work with them first. But in the, let's say Q4 probably there should be QField Cloud around. And how the accounts are going to work is basically you're going to have a private, like personal accounts and team accounts. So if you do have a team with multiple people, you'll build a team and you can add the personal accounts to it.
Okay. Great.
Kind of imagine kind of GitHub. If you know the model of GitHub, it's or GitLab. It's going to be very much like GitLab. Yeah.
Great. And we have someone who's asking if you can explain a little bit more the offline editing workflow and how that might work.
Yeah. So basically the offline workflow is when you're for sure not having, you're sure that you're not going to have connectivity. You do have your PostGIS database or some kind of data somewhere. It can be geo packages, can be shapes, whatever. And on QGIS, you install the QField Sync plugin. And when you do that, you can say create an offline project. You click on it and you decide, okay, this layer I want, this layer I want, that layer I do not care about on the mobile, that one I do not care about. And QField Sync will give you a reconfigured QGIS project with the according geo package. So everything will be put in a geo package. The dump of the database, you can select what area you want, or the whole database, it will get into a geo package. And then you take your geo package and the QGIS project and you move them to the device. On the device, you work. The geo package is a smart, or QField is smart and will store in the geo package as well what has been done on the field. And when you move it back with QField Sync will read what has happened on the field, and it will play back those things into your database, into your original data source.
Okay, great.
Hope it is clear.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's the time we have. So I sort of really thank you for giving us that update on QField and QField Cloud. Really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to following online.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting and have a great continuation.